Welcome to the Sharpest College Football Podcast, our Week 12 preview. I am BuckMetrics. Robert Martin is on assignment, looking for new headquarters space for the Sharpest Sports corporate office. Joining me in his stead is Isaiah Walker. Isaiah, who's going to give Robert the bad news? We struggled all season. He leaves the country, and now we have a 5-2 season. You're the new guy here, so you can give him the bad news. Tell him now. He's listening. Robert, you're gone. Tell him.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he is. Okay, well, Robert, we have bad news for you.
Robert, we miss you. Hope you're enjoying yourself, taking lessons on how to draw trees and all kinds of fun stuff overseas. We'll progress without you. If you are new, this is our glossary. Go ahead and take a screen grab of this and save it where you save all of your college football work. And if you are not new, thank you for returning. And by now you are, of course, by definition, brilliant. With that, we will look at our Week 11 results. Our first, honest to God, our first winning week of the year. So I can't even do a victory lap here. This is just regression at this point. But hey, we're off the 45% schneid. God, the sides have just been a disaster. At least the totals have been pretty good. 20, 27, and 25. That barely break even. But I don't know. We were due. Not many plays as happens as this second weekend of November. The number of plays really goes down a lot. More games just to talk about and give you guys ideas rather than dual model plays, which, considering the season, might not be a bad thing. Power ratings for the Athena, one of my two models, top 20. Notre Dame I have as number 1. Robert has them as number 8. Not too much movement or new teams at this point. Just wanted to talk about a couple of teams that we've got differing opinions here. Robert's model just really not happy with Michigan at all here. I've got them as number 6, which might be a bit high, 27 a bit low. I think this all comes down to, I'm curious what you think, Isaiah. How much do you believe in a game-to-game basis on Underwood? That's pretty much it, right?
Michigan is really difficult to figure out because I look at them and I just think they should be better than they are. I do understand that Underwood, look, he's a true freshman. That even for a really talented true freshman, it's a tough thing to come into a program like Michigan with the expectations of Michigan. Also, frankly, a system that is not necessarily conducive to quarterbacks. Yeah. Like, hey, JJ McCarthy, how is that NFL thing going? But he's been put in a tough spot. But I just look at this Michigan team and I just think it feels really weird around Sharon Moore. And I'm not confident that Sharon Moore is going to be around Ann Arbor long term. Like, I do feel that there is only so many times you can get extended based on ruining Ryan Day's life before people say, okay, when are we actually going to do something other than ruin Ryan Day's life? So, yeah, I'm like, Michigan still has a path to hit the win total that I bet. So that's great. And they don't have to beat Ohio State to do it. Mm-hmm. That's nice. But I do ask, like, long term, like, what is the viability of this program? Because I don't really trust them in the next few years to be a legitimate playoff contender. I think they can make it because of how the Big Ten is structured and how the playoff is structured. And the fact that they have the big M on their uniform, that does tend to curry favor. But yeah, it's just a tough program to evaluate right now. I mean, how do you only beat my team by 5 at home? How do you only beat Purdue by 5 at home? Come on.
I think that's what's dragging their power rating down in Robert's model pretty clearly.
Quite frankly, you should. If you can't beat my team by more than 7, that means you're on a tier of elite teams that includes Rutgers. Congratulations.
Yes. Fair. Miami, look, once at this late in the season, it's hard to move. I can't argue with both numbers. Here's the thing about the Mario. The Mario can take a number 13 team and make them a 31 in 1 week. They can make them number 60, and then they can go back to 13. It's the classic, and we talked about this in part 1, but just to really quick, it's the worst coaching is like what we're seeing there. It's like the good team that can really look really bad and inconsistent, and that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, they have. This Miami team is stacked, right? Even if you had questions about like quarterback position or what, it wasn't like this is an unviable talent at this X position, quarterback, running back, whatever you want. You might not have believed in them to be like the top of their tier, but then you look at like the supplemental cast of this Miami team. Like specifically, I cannot believe this team is underperforming with the lines that they have. Like,
Yeah.
you could just copy paste this Miami line onto an NFL team and they would perform, in my opinion. That's a little hyperbole, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Not as close as you're going to get to it in college football. And it just, again, I can't figure out a reason for this team to underperform the way they did, other than what is Mario doing? What do you do in practice? What do you do before a game against somebody dumb that you end up losing to? Was it Stanford that they lost to?
No, they lost to Louisville, which was just
That's not a bad
No,
loss.
but the other one was really bad. It was I can't even remember. Gosh.
SMU. They lost to SMU.
All right, that's not a horrible loss, but the way they lost it too was really just come on.
Yeah. So it's eventually, I lose faith in Mario and this team and their mindset. It just feels like they're 5-0, 6-0, and they're looking really good, but somehow, like, in the back of their minds, they're still clinging on to, it's coming. It's coming. The moment's coming, and then when it came in that SMU game, it was like double overtime, right? Wasn't it? It was
the fact that it got to overtime was the really dumb thing.
Yeah. And then that moment happens, and you lose that game, and it's the same as every other year, so now we're going to find another game to lose. I can't explain it, but it does tend to make me think they're not viable as a program to get past more than the 9-10 win line, which in this ACC is not acceptable.
How about this? Quick take. Does Mario make the playoff ever at Miami?
I think it probably happens eventually because
you're backsliding. What happened to the guy in part one? What happened to the guy who said, I'm not going to buy you? You already bought it.
No, I'm not.
This is how it happens. It happened to me too.
Okay, but look, we talk about betting, right? If there are 10 seasons and they make the playoff in one of those seasons, and you bet on them in every one of those seasons to make the playoff, how much money have you lost?
True.
So if you ask me, does he make the playoff? It probably happens because, one, there's still just too much talent in this program, and two, this is a conference that is about to send potentially Virginia to play for a championship. Or maybe not, depending on what some people have bet this weekend or this week. But again, there's just no excuse for this. So I just don't understand what we're doing here with this Miami thing, and why we've resigned it to, maybe the ACC will take care of them eventually.
The ACC took care of them this year. But one more question here. This is interesting to me because Ole Miss is number 6. I was just looking that up in the playoff rankings. Do you think, just your gut feel, would you have them closer to 6, the playoff ranking, or 17, my model? And if you say 6, my feelings won't be hurt. I might be a little bearish here, but Athena actually loves big conference teams. So this is what's interesting to me.
I believe I have them. I'd have to check exactly where I have them on my personal top 25. I want to say I have them around 10. So I'm like in the middle. I'm a little bit. Yeah, I'm close to Robert. Because the thing about them is, I think usually when I look at the Lane Kiffin teams and I look at like the dumb things that happen to Ole Miss that usually end, like last year, right? Lane Kiffin is going on his tirade about how it just means more, so we should get into the playoffs because we're in the SEC and we just try harder. And it's, sir, you lost to Sunbelt Billy. Like, you lost to Kentucky. Also, you lost to Kentucky. No, you're not a playoff team. It doesn't matter that they are SEC teams when you lose to Sunbelt Billy. But like this year, hey, you know what? To their credit, they have not done that. They had plenty of chances. They looked terrible against Kentucky. And then what? They had that random stinker in the middle of the year to Washington State. They could have lost that Washington State. Like, I was watching that game, and I was like, yeah, this is the Lane Kiffin no-show where he does the really funny thing, and then when he's complaining about not making the playoffs, it's going to be like, you lost to the Pac-2 runner-up. But they haven't done it, right? They have the one loss against Georgia. Nobody is going to fault you for that, for losing in Athens. And they were competitive in that game.
Yep.
Actually,
they should have won it.
They looked like they were going to win that game for most of that game. But otherwise, they looked really good. I think the showing against Oklahoma was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And look, who do you finish the season with? Florida at home. You can't even lose to Sunbelt Billy. He's not there anymore. And then I will say, you do need to be careful about that last game because really stupid things happened in the Egg Bowl. And
Yep.
this is not a pushover Mississippi State team, even
No.
though they did burn me against Georgia.
Yeah.
But this is not a pushover team. So be careful there. But at the least, it looks like you're finishing with no more than 2 losses. So good on you. Like, you put it together this year. I think they will be dependent on who they get matched up with in the play. They feel like
Definitely.
they do feel like, are you gonna get a nice matchup like the Penn State path last year, or are you gonna get the Oregon path where we just stick you against Indiana first week?
Yeah. You know what? Ole Miss versus Georgia Tech would be interesting.
That would be fun.
Yeah, just because Georgia Tech is really frustrating. Georgia Tech doesn't really play defense, though.
Yeah, and we also look at the other thing too is we've discussed this before. Whoever wins the ACC, what line do you need to bet the ACC team in the playoff to cover the spread? Yes. I don't like even Georgia Tech. I'm gonna need multiple scores. I think unless they get the Penn State path.
Yeah, they'll get the. Oh, that's right. No, you don't get the automatic top 4 berth.
No, not anymore.
They'll probably be like number 11.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Georgia Tech probably has a case to be higher than 11. I think there are probably some other depending on how. I think depending on how it lays out, right? Like even if we're like, let me pull up the playoff rankings right now.
Ole Miss is number 6, so if ACC slides into number 11,
today
would be Ole Miss.
Yeah, we do have some teams here that are going to fall out. I think like Texas at 11. But they play Georgia this week, so your season is over.
Texas is actually out once you put all the AQs get it. Because if you put your top 5 in there, excuse me, you have an AC team moving up, and then you have
2 Big 12
JMU,
teams.
Whoever it is.
Yeah, you still have 2 Big 12 teams in here too, right? I don't think the Big 12 is a two bid league, so you got BYU and Texas Tech still in here.
Yeah, they might. I don't know. We'll see.
I suppose if one of them finishes, or if one of them wins the championship at 2 losses and the other one finishes with 1 loss, that's impossible. Texas Tech has 1 loss. So, yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a tough thing. Or, like, what? Yeah. So, there are ways to move around here for different teams. But, yeah, maybe it would be a fun match.
Yeah. All right. Top 20 offenses here. Arkansas stays at the top spot. Just a couple things. Vanderbilt up to number 3. I don't know. Look, I think people think that they like Diego Pavia, but I think they see him more as a novelty, and they think Vandy's probably a good defensive team because of Clark Lee, and they've been a good over team the last few weeks here. And then also just sneaking into the top 20, no surprise after their latest game. South Florida at number 20 as well. So 2 interesting data points there.
Yeah, the South Florida thing, like, credit to that team, and really impressive because we were all over them in that Boise State game to open the season. We're like, this is a great spot for South Florida to win the game outright. They blew Boise State out of the water. And then they contributed to getting Billy Napier fired. But after that, it was like, okay, now here's the Miami game. And then after that, okay, were they just a cute story to start the season? Or is this sustainable? And even after the Miami game, you didn't need to dump stock on them because they have been so consistent for the rest of this. Just looked like a really good group of 5 team. And it's not a group of 5 team too where it's like they're just winning on margins. These guys are crushing people. So I'm really impressed with South Florida. Obviously, I'm never going to bet on a G5 team when they make the playoffs. I'm of the mindset like the token 12 seed for the G5 is just dumb because you're essentially making the rest of the G5 irrelevant because they can't make it. And then that one team is, what did we get? We get to get stomped by Georgia or whatever team ends up being the 5 seed. So that I do hate that for them. But don't let whatever happens in the playoff discount. We have some really good G5 teams, whether it's South Florida, James Madison. There's some really good teams in the G5. It made me think, imagine if we had a playoff for G5 teams. Like it's like the FCS playoffs for G5. Oh, yeah. I would be glued to my television.
Yes. I got into this with someone on Twitter, and they were saying, it doesn't work because the FCS doesn't work. It doesn't make any money. And it's
yes, totally work. FCS playoff games are fun to watch.
They're saying financially, but it doesn't. But you can't say that because if there's a playoff, you're going to say it's literally impossible for a bowl game, a current crappy bowl game that will be replaced or repurposed for a playoff game,
Let me
it would
ask you.
have to be rate way higher and just pay more.
Let me ask you, what would you rather watch? Would you rather watch the Bad Boy Moore Gasparilla Bowl on December 20th, or would you rather watch the FCS National Championship between North Dakota State and South Dakota State? I know which one I'm picking.
You know the answer to that because you and Robert are always going back and forth about these bowls, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching. So I can't even pretend.
So, yeah, I think people should really, please watch D5 football. Watch the Tuesday night action, even though that's not the best D5 football. But people really want to be college football fans. You have to expand your horizons outside of the Power Four. There's so much good football if you go out there and find it.
And there's a lot of bad football too, but it's fun.
It's fun. Hey, this is fun.
Yes. If you're a Conference USA person, you hear people talking about, oh, Iowa's so good. I guarantee you, half those people are thinking, we could beat Iowa. I know we could. If we just got them on a neutral site, I guarantee you they think that. Yeah. All right. A couple offensive metrics here. At this point in the season, there's not a lot of movement. What's interesting here is now Texas Tech, top 10 in Team Apex. Really good balanced team and still somehow a little bit off the map from the national perspective. But man, they have my top strength of record. That's not something I publish. Maybe I'll start doing that as we get closer to the end of the season. They're not awesome at any single thing except now passing. Okay. They had no weaknesses. Now they have a really good strength here as Marcel Reed's in his first full season as a starter and really starting to shine. That's my takeaway on this slide is just basically stop overlooking Texas Tech because I can't say don't because people are.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. Obviously the polls aren't necessarily overlooking them. They are highly ranked. But it feels like people still want this to be Jimbo Fisher's Texas A&M.
Yes, yeah.
They still want this to be oh, it's coming. The collapse is coming. Guys, I don't think the collapse is coming. Elko's a good coach. He's not that was a good hire that they made. And boy, with the way that it ended up working, hey, congrats to the fans for saving Texas A&M from themselves there. But that hire looks great. That team is playing just great football on both sides of the ball. They're winning big games. They're winning games convincingly. I don't look at Texas A&M games and be like, oh, that's the fade spot. I'm going to take the other team against the spread on them this week because they just look so competent. And I will tell you, first of all of the overrated SEC teams that can get into the playoffs, and it happens all the time, that's not one I would not want to see Texas A&M early in my bracket. If I'm an Ohio State or an Indiana or a Texas Tech fan, right, from these other teams that look really good, I want to see Georgia. I want to see Alabama way before I see Texas A&M.
Yeah, very fair, very fair.
But the other thing I'm just noticing from the Big Ten lens on here is I still feel like this is getting lost. But Indiana, top 10 in GGAB here, this is not everyone wants it to be the Fernando Mendoza show and the pass the ball show. That team can run the football.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous because I think that last year they lacked a little. They had a run game, they had an offense, but that last year team was much more, hey, I need the quarterback to make plays. And that's why they got into trouble against Notre Dame because Notre Dame's defense was you're not going to make plays on us. Now you see them in a game like that Penn State game where everything – and the Iowa game earlier too, right? Both of these games, they could not get their normal form of offense going when it mattered late until they did, right? But the reason that they could was because they were not one-dimensional. These teams could not just stack up on quarterback and dare them and say, you know what, make a play, beat our defense. And so for the people who are still trying to doubt Indiana, and they still exist for whatever reason, that team does not appear to have a weakness on paper. Yeah. Even Ohio State can't run the ball very well.
Yeah, that's a weakness. I was about to say, yeah.
But Indiana and and these two teams are about to play each other in Indy. So let's do not. I've already seen the Penn State people are all salty. Oh, just wait till Ohio State gets them.
Let's see. The offense that reminds me that they look like the most to me is actually Oregon's. Yeah. It's they're very well balanced. And the thing is, to your point, now their quarterback is much better than last year. So that's not to crap on Curtis Rourke, but he was a pretty good MAC quarterback. And now you've got a guy that was one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC last year. And he's got I don't know. Do you think he has more weapons at Indiana and better talent than he did at Cal?
Yeah. And by the way, if you want to make the Oregon comparison, both of these coaches are absolute psychos.
Yeah.
So
Oh, totally.
I'm
Yep.
just saying, boy, you better be real careful if you're operating under the assumption of, oh, this is all going to end in Indianapolis when Ryan Day and the boys come and steamroll, and be really careful about that one.
Speaking of psychos, props to, we didn't mention this in part one, but props to Dan Lanning for not even wearing any rain gear. He just had a sweatshirt on. That was awesome.
Again, commitment to the bet.
Yep.
That's how, you know what? That's why they didn't lose. If he
Yeah.
had a raincoat on, they would have lost.
Very fair. All right, defensive ratings here. No movement here really at all. No new teams. Only real movement here is, please don't take this the wrong way, Oklahoma noses ahead of Ohio State for the number one, because when you're playing an offense as challenged as Purdue, you have to be perfect not to lose points.
Hey, look, you allowed Purdue to cover. Let's brag.
Yeah.
First team all year to
First
cover.
time this season.
Against
Yes.
Ohio State. Yeah, I do think like Ohio State didn't really. I've seen this a couple times from them this year where it feels like they're just, hey, there's no reason for us to go out and risk people getting hurt or what. They were never going to lose that game. And they weren't particularly locked in early, like Purdue did actually move the ball decent, but it was never a threat of, oh, this is a danger zone. What, Purdue led 3-0 at the beginning of the first quarter? Hey, that's great for us. Stop the count. But yeah, I'm not concerned on Ohio State's defense, but I do understand. Again, Oklahoma's defense, very good too. So I don't think anybody should take this personally.
Yeah. All right. Some team defensive metrics. Again, this is so settled right now. Nebraska actually drops a little bit after, I don't know, they were still fine against UCLA. Nico looked pretty rough for long periods of time, but that's a Nebraska thing. That's not a Nico thing. New top 10 defensive apex here. This is one thing I want to talk about with you is South Carolina. I bring that up because they've been a disappointment this year. The offense, they got rid of whichever Shula it was. I forget. None of those guys were good after Dad. But maybe with the new offensive coordinator and this past defense I'm just curious how this will look against a very shaky Clemson offense, notwithstanding what Clemson did to vaunted Florida State on the ACC network, I might add. Just clip and save in terms of, I think that there's another path here for the Gamecocks yet again, huh?
Yeah, you said the same thing. Yeah, has South Carolina been a disappointment this season? Absolutely. But so has Clemson. And if you look at least when I look at them, it's okay, which one of these teams appears to have a pulse, both from the coaching standpoint and the team standpoint? I'm taking South Carolina. South Carolina needed something excessively dumb to happen for them not to beat Alabama. Whereas I think if Alabama played Clemson, it would be like a 30-point game.
Yeah. Yep.
And South Carolina's kind of had Clemson's number the past couple of years too, because South Carolina has actually embraced the modern era of football and not just stood and pouted at every press conference and cried about things that aren't going your way. So yeah, I mean, I think that's worth a watch, and I think people will be like, oh, if that happens, are people still? They're still in the mindset that Clemson is good, so it will still get reported as South Carolina upsets Clemson.
Yes. I know people are still learning about Arizona. I'm converting people to the Church of Tucson or whatever you want to call it. But these other defenses that are basically South Carolina's on the par with, these are like seriously like nasty pass defenses too. I don't know. Not saying look ahead line, but just something to keep in mind. I don't know if there's a really interesting game for them before that though, but just keep that in mind. And before we get to the games, I decided to add a little picture to the bum list this time. This kind of week was exactly why Hambone, fellow Chicago guy, just like you, although he's a native, not adopted, this is why we made the bum list. DJ Lagway, he had played his way off the bum list and then zips up to number one against, you guessed it, Kentucky. Kentucky, who's another, like in that Mario kind of, I think we're stuck with this coach guy. Then Jalen Rayner, he's been here all year, and my God, again, this is exactly what the bum list is for. Arkansas State trailing by, I believe, 5 or 6, threatening. Literally, I think they're in goal to go, and with less than a minute left, and my guy comes through, Jalen Rayner throws a pick just to end the game on that. Thank you so much. And then Malik Washington actually started so well, and hey, what happened to the Maryland quarterback after September? What do we think happened?
Yeah. The DJ Lagway thing was, it was like, I never understood where the hype was coming from on both him and Florida this year, because it was like, I just didn't think he was that good to begin with. But even if he was, he certainly wasn't being coached properly. He certainly wasn't being coached up. There's not a system that was working at all. And it was, what was the game? He threw 5 picks against somebody.
Was that LSU?
Yeah, it might have been. Yes. Yeah. So there you go. He threw 5 interceptions against LSU. And it's just, dude, come on now, man. And so now it feels like the coach is gone. The season is very clearly over. You're just another bad Florida team, and now he's been benched, right? Like, he gets benched last week, so I almost want to feel bad. Like, I do feel bad for the guy. I don't feel bad for Florida, but that's just a disaster. The Maryland thing, this has become the Mike Lockley special. You go 4-0 in September and you finish 4-8. That's what they do. Now they do have one chance to finish 5-7 because they get Michigan State, but I believe it's at Michigan State to finish the season.
Yeah, we thought that when they got UCLA too. And
yeah, no, I was on UCLA on that game.
Okay, some of us are a little slower. So,
well, Buck, what month was that game played in?
Yeah, true. It was okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
I do also. I'll shout out, hey, cameo from my good friend Drake Lindsley.
Yes, from your favorite program. To your immediate west, or to your west, not immediate west. All right, let's do some Week 12 games. Just to let everybody know, no island time this week. Can't make the schedules match, so we're going to have a few more games than usual. Ignore my logo here. This is not a... Let me just explain. I got Robert's projections really late last night, so this is just a let's talk about it game. This is not an official line, because my models have basically USC, who's giving 6 to Iowa by margins of 14 and 15, which would be a play. Robert has USC by only 7. Interestingly, we all have the same amount of points for Iowa, 17 and 19, basically the same. Just depends if USC can get that kind of like that 5th score here, 31-32 for my models versus 26 for Robert. Obviously, this is the game that we thought we wanted in year 1 of the Big Ten. But with Miller Moss, USC, I don't think that's what it would have been nearly as good as what we're going to see now, because you've got the number 2 offense in all of FBS by my ratings, versus this is like clearly a top 10 defense here for Iowa. That's the matchup that's going to be fascinating to watch. What's really interesting too is our eyeballs belie these numbers here, in that USC has a higher defensive power rating than Iowa's offensive power rating. But from a matchup standpoint, boy, this is where it gets really interesting. We just know that USC struggles with very physical running teams like Iowa. Now, do they struggle with physical teams like Iowa that kind of, I guess, to put it nicely, struggle to throw the ball? That's where it gets interesting. USC's pass defense has gotten a lot better. Now we're to 64. That's actually, okay, passable, if not pretty good for a Big Ten team. Now, they're not Iowa, but gosh, Jaden Maava against a team with a defensive apex plus of 5 is, again, a fascinating matchup here. Iowa's defense is for real. I don't think they've seen anything like USC's receivers this year. They couldn't have. On Oregon's best day, they're still, I think, a little below USC's. And then
I think you could make the case for Indiana.
Like 3 deep like USC? That's the thing. It's close. Yeah, you make a really good point. Yeah, okay. We'll have to see. There's so much conjecture on this one. I'm not going to play this here. I'm glad that Robert's model came in here. It's hard to see USC running away with this, and it's easy to see Iowa just... I think we're going to see at least one quarter that just has 2 possessions, just as a starting point. Iowa's going to have at least 1 possession that's 9 minutes. Let's just start with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of game is, we mentioned it in the past, this is the one where I would have been, like, last year, the year before, I was like, oh yeah, this is where Lincoln Riley gets exposed as Lincoln Riley, because I would say, oh, they're going to go into this game just trying to pass the ball downfield, and Iowa's going to sit on them and say, no, you're not going to do that. But this USC team has actually shown us the ability to commit to the run and to play physical. Now, I agree with you. I don't think that they have seen a team that is going to be as physical and as in the trenches and so willing to just take you down to the mud as Iowa is. What is going to frustrate even the best passing offenses. We saw them again, even if you do think that the USC wide receiver core is better than Indiana, that Indiana offense overall is
Yeah.
one of the best in the country. And
Yep.
they could get nothing going against Iowa. And it wasn't for lack of trying, right? Iowa just suckers you into playing that brand of football. You as good as you are, and you all of a sudden you're suckered into screen passes and you're suckered in to run the ball, and that's where they want you. So I think it is fascinating, right? We're going to see which style really can dominate here, right? Because if USC can turn the tables on, when you turn the tables on Iowa and you say, no, you're playing our style, we're passing downfield and we're gonna get past that defense, or at least we're gonna speed you up and we're gonna dare you to go man to man with our receivers, then the game can get away from Iowa. But I think this is going to be really interesting because if USC can control tempo in this game, or even better, if this game is like the Oregon game, where Oregon was able to, they didn't speed it up. They won the 18-16 game. Boy, you feel really good about what USC can do long term if they've developed that kind of balance, I think.
Yeah, I think you might look, and they're totally different teams. So I'm not saying Iowa's Northwestern, but I think and I'm grasping for straws here, I think a relative weakness of this Iowa defense might be, and Riley has to play it right because if you do this too much, it loses its effectiveness. USC, the staple of their running game is just doing the counters where you're pulling typically a guard and a tackle. And the good defenses are trained just to follow those blockers, and you get to the ball carrier right when the ball gets there, and you get a lot of 5-yard losses. Now, the thing is, when Maeva keeps those, that usually leaves a nice lane open behind the guy that's crashing down. So if Riley can balance that, I think that might actually be the one thing where I think if Maeva runs for like maybe 50, just something like 50 yards or something, I think that's a barometer here. I do want to point out too that it's USC actually just not just as a better kind of by running game, just they run for more yards too. Now some of that's pace, but
there's pace here too, and I don't know how the metrics look at. I'm thinking running quarterback, right? Because obviously Iowa's quarterback is very mobile. Iowa likes to run the quarterback a lot. So you've got two different threats. You've got obviously Iowa does have a good running back, so you have that threat. But then you have to be aware that Gronowski is probably more of a threat when he takes off than trying to go downfield.
Yeah, and that again, that's the kind of guy that's really going to frustrate you. It's okay, we finally have stopped. We won't stop, but we've contained the running game a little bit, and then now you're going to have this guy that can't throw the freaking ball run for 4 on 3rd and 3 again and again and again. So that's why I think you're going to see at least one 9-minute drive here for Iowa. So not playing the sides, obviously, USC to continue to have a path and make that game at Oregon a play-in game to some degree. Need to win this one. Is it too much just to go to that for 30 seconds? You probably haven't studied it as carefully as I am. The Big Ten schedule a week from Saturday. Can we get Big Noon to go to Eugene? Can we get a 9 a.m. kickoff Pacific just to kind of help my Trojans out here?
I think what they said preseason was that Big Noon is willing to go to those games, but they won't be noon Eastern games.
Come on.
I think they were out there earlier this season. Was the Oregon? No, maybe the Oregon IU game was game day. Not.
I think so. Yeah.
But I swear Big Noon was out there at least once. But I remember that they were very clear that it was not going to be a 9 a.m. kickoff.
Please reconsider Big Ten.
That only goes the other way. You guys have to come here and play 9 a.m. Pacific time, but we aren't doing that the other way around.
Okay, thank you. I tried. All right. Notre Dame at Pitt. I've got this. Yeah, this is not. Robert's got this basically around the number of 56, but my models have this going under. I've got a total of 44 and 47, so comfortable margin there. It's a little nervy to play an under with Notre Dame. They've got didn't put it in the deck this week, but CJ Carr is the number 1 rated quarterback by raw Apex here as a freshman. But Notre Dame's defense is so good, and Pitt's defense is good too. I think we're starting to see a little bit of the more regression for the Pitt quarterback, Mason Heinschel, I think is his name. 56, a little bit above the average of 53 for FBS games. I do, I guess, to put one thing here, I do like how the prospect, first of all, I just like Notre Dame's defense against Pitt. I think they're just in 2 different classes. I think Pitt can slow down Jeremiah Love more than defenses that we've seen before, too. Believe me, I wouldn't have scouted this out, but I'm not going to argue with the model. The model's pretty solid on totals, so I'm playing the under here. Curious, I'm guessing this didn't strike you initially as, boy, here's an under to play.
I didn't play the under on this one. Actually, I did play Notre Dame on this one, and I have a couple reasons for it. The first one is I'm just looking at Pitt right now, and I think there's a little bit of ACC flukiness. I'm not saying this is a bad team. The defense is good, but Boston College, Florida State, Syracuse, NC State, Stanford. Yep. Those are Pitt's last 5 opponents.
That's a murderer's row of mediocrity.
Yeah. And of that murderer's row of mediocrity, they gave up 20 to Stanford, 34 to NC State, 31 to Florida State. So you're not exactly like slamming the door on the bad competition here. You are outscoring them, so that's cool because you don't expect necessarily Pitt to be like that's okay, we're just going to put up 53 points on NC State and that's fine. But I'm a little concerned that is not going to translate to a Notre Dame team that is playing their best football of the season. Yeah. 2, Notre Dame cannot afford to look pedestrian. Yeah. They are on the clock for the playoff committee. They need to win these games. They need to win these games big. They need to make statements, bump all their metrics up, and they know it. I think they could have called the dogs off against Navy, and they did not. They just kept going. A Navy team that didn't even have Horvath playing, and they just kept going anyway and kept going. I was on Notre Dame to cover that one as well. And then the third one is Pitt is apparently going into this with the Narduzzi mindset of it's not an ACC game, quote, unquote. Actual quote, if they score 100 on us, it's no big deal. Yeah, I'm sorry. That earns you a play. And then next week, if Notre Dame does cover this line, that will earn you a Narduzzi award.
Yeah, long overdue, considering he's kept it in check so far this year. Yeah, that doesn't bode well for my under. When the coach says, hey, we can give him 100 points.
That is why I'm scared. That's why I'm scared of the under on this one. Because I think like in a vacuum, especially say this was played in September and Notre Dame hadn't lost 2 games already, or maybe Notre Dame had some more resume opportunities down the line, then I would totally see the under on here. There's 2 teams that probably want to prefer to do a little bit more of the slower pace, like defensive first kind of stuff. Notre Dame wants to run the ball a little bit more. I would totally understand the logic to that one. I'm just really concerned that the path to the under in this one is Notre Dame has scored 45, so I hope Pitt didn't score.
Yeah, I think that's where we might be. So, all right. UCF at Texas Tech. This is a BuckMetrics play on the total here. Athena's got this total at 37, BuckMetrics 38, pretty much by the same score. 4 scores to a touchdown and a field goal. Robert's got it around the number again, basically. He's got a total of 48. Tech is a sneaky under team. You look at them, they play at a high pace, and people think they're just like they're going to go, they feel like an over team, but their defense is so good. Their defense is, I think, like top 12 or so. Their offense, look, this isn't bad, but it's not as good as people really think they are. This is not an awesome passing offense. It's good, 121 Apex Plus, but if there's one thing really weirdly, that UCF does on defense, it's pass defense. Good explosiveness on offense here for Texas Tech. Good, not great running game here. Not a lot to like about the Central Florida offense. The other thing, too, is I'm just kind of wondering what the deal is, as you pointed out in part 1. What on earth is going with Central Florida at quarterback, too?
Yeah, I have no reason to trust Central Florida here because it seems that when you get a line like this with a team that's playing as well as Texas Tech, like Texas Tech essentially at this point of the season appears to be a name-your-score team, except like with if they're playing truly elite, but like even against BYU, they basically name their score. That's what it felt like. And so usually when I'm looking at a game like this, I need some angle on the underdog to be like, either, okay, this is a look-ahead spot for Texas Tech maybe, or is this a sneaky spot where they're just not expecting it? I just don't feel like Texas Tech has really given me enough moments this season to feel like they're susceptible to that kind of upset. And it's certainly not a look-ahead spot. You play West Virginia to end the season. That's not looking ahead to anything.
Yes.
So I just don't know what the argument for Central Florida is here. If there's quarterback instability, is somebody hurt? Is Scott Frost just deciding that he's going to try and coach, which does not usually end well? I don't know. I like the under on this one much more than the Notre Dame play because I think it's a lot more viable that this kind of game, even though Texas Tech can be a name your score team, they don't have to be. They are not under any pressure to keep the starters in late. There is no reason for them to need to really to keep pushing. So if
To goose the metrics, they're kind of in or out.
if this is a 30-7 game in the fourth quarter, they don't need to keep scoring. They're gonna run the clock out. They're gonna run the ball out. I feel fairly confident in both the Athena and your models here that I don't think Central Florida is putting up a ton of points on this. If really good offenses like BYU are struggling to score on this Texas Tech team, what is the argument for UCF here? I don't see it. So I think the under is a good play. I certainly would play the under before you play the spread on this one.
Yeah. And again, who knows? The UCF quarterback spot, just who knows what that's going to have in mind or in store. Troy at Old Dominion. My model has this as a play, but Roberts doesn't. I've got margins here of Old Dominion's getting 10 at home to Troy. My models have Old Dominion by 23 and 21, so that's a play. And Robert has this again right on the number here. This divergence between his model and mine is just, I'm seeing Troy is one of the luckiest teams. I saw a graphic from someone, I forget, he has really good graphics, and basically had Troy as like one of the absolute most lucky teams in FBS, and I had them as like one of the top 5 luckiest teams as well. These are just two teams in totally different spots here. These numbers are pretty good for ODU in terms of the power ratings for a Sun Belt team. Troy is just, I don't know. To the extent that they've actually won some games, they're just really getting away with it. I don't think their offense is good at all. They don't do anything good on offense. They stink all around. I want to say this is off, but then Robert's model is just saying, yeah, Troy's is breaking your model this year, buddy. It's going to be a 10-point game.
Yeah, I want to give Troy credit because we were all quite low on them in the offseason. I bet
Yes.
I bet their win total under, so they already proved me wrong on that one. So I never want to discount, like I've said multiple times when I've come on the pod here, I never want to discount a team that has proven me wrong. So you get that for Troy, but you're right. They do feel a bit like Icarus here, like we're flying a little close to the sun. How sustainable is that? It might be sustainable against middle-tier competition. Old Dominion is not that. I think the Old Dominion hype has progressively gone down as some other mid-majors like James Madison and South Florida have gone up towards the top. But this Old Dominion team has been consistently quite good this season. Again, fundamental football, tough football team. They don't beat themselves. They're well coached. Again, this team arguably has given Indiana more of a battle than anybody other than Iowa, Penn State have this season. That counts for something because that game was in Bloomington. And yeah, I like Old Dominion here. I haven't played it yet, but if it's still at 10, especially if the hook hasn't been thrown on it, I might go ahead and grab that here. I guess if Troy wants to burn us again, they can go ahead and burn us again, but boy, this feels like a mismatch.
It's got to run out at some point here, man.
I think it does.
Yeah. All right. I guess, in order to look a little impartial here, didn't wear the Kennesaw State t-shirt today. This is for first place, and this is two undefeated teams, the two undefeated teams in Conference USA. Kennesaw given 2.5 at Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State, I don't know how look, credit to somebody. This is one of those off-season projects. I got to figure out how they're able to run the ball so well, but they cannot pass the ball. Look, it's not like they're going against, as you guys like to say in your neck of the woods, they're not going against the 85 Bears here on defense, but I just don't know if Jacksonville State's as good as their record. They're not getting away with it like Troy, but they are just so one-dimensional. And I don't know. Kennesaw's got a really functional offense here. They actually, and again, I didn't put the top 10 quarterbacks this week. I forget their starter, Omari. I forget his last name, but he's like in the top 10 quarterbacks in terms of Apex. That's going to get you a long way in a conference like the Sun Belt when you're that much better. They actually have a good backup quarterback, too. They got the right coach. They're just so much more explosive on offense. This Jacksonville State defense is not good. Neither of these teams are good against the run. Maybe that That's obviously favors Jacksonville State more, as they're more the running team here. It's not enough of a margin, although it's darn close. The BuckMetrics model has only a 5-point game. Athena has it a 9-point game, and Robert has it a 10-point game. It's not a dual model play or anything like that. I'm really tempted, and I don't want to be inobjective here, but I just think Kennesaw State's so much better, despite the fact that Jacksonville State's actually undefeated.
Yeah, I think that Kennesaw State is more proven. If we look at these two teams, Kennesaw State arguably probably should have beat Wake Forest, which that's not a pushover,
Yes.
by the way. All of a sudden, Wake Forest is a good team. So that was an impressive opening the season to say, hey, this team might not be terrible. And now they look good, and they're winning games pretty impressively. They look good. Their offense looks really good. They've got all these mid-major football teams that are taking Indiana quarterbacks and making magic with them. Kennesaw State has done it too. So their offense looks really good. And the other thing, if we look on the other side of it, yeah, Jacksonville State is undefeated. Or not, no, they have a loss. They lost.
Undefeated in conference.
Yes, they lost to Georgia Southern.
And how soon we forget, they lost to UCF.
That's the UCF in a game, But they've been treading water for the past couple weeks. 3-point win against UTEP, 3-point win against Middle Tennessee State, 2-point win against Sam Houston.
That's a really good point.
No, they're not undefeated. They got blown out by Southern Miss.
No, Southern Miss is Sunbelt.
Oh gosh, yeah, boy,
I still make that mistake too. Them and Marshall, I get stuck on.
Anyway, though, but I think we all agree. Like Southern Miss is a good team. I was on Southern Miss last. I was on Southern Miss last week. That was a good play for me. So it feels like this Jacksonville State team is really treading water the past couple weeks. And sure, I guess you could say they're looking ahead to this game, but it doesn't feel like that, does it?
Does anybody in Conference USA look ahead to any aside from your rival? Okay.
No, it just doesn't feel like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to play this one. It is tempting because I really do think that Kennesaw State is just by far the better team here and the more balanced team. It is a road game. I don't want to discount that one. But this just feels like where the shine of Jacksonville State comes off. Like we pieced this team as a little bit overrated from the get-go.
Yeah, no, those are some those are some really bad teams that they're like in one-score games with. UTEP is horrible. Middle's bad, and Sam Houston, notwithstanding their dominant performance in Eugene last weekend, he said sarcastically, they were at the bottom of every metrics. They were like neck and neck with UMass for worst team in all of FBS.
Yeah,
and they're one score with them. Again, I don't look at scores. I just run my models, and it's enough just to kind of get this thing together. That's really good data. I feel like I should feel a lot more confident in the Owls here. Let me go grab my t-shirt real quick. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I think that's the play here. I'll be really interested to see how this line moves too, as well. I don't know if I don't know if there's any quote sharp teams in Conference USA, but they feel like that at this point right now. They're just head and shoulders. We'll say shoulders above everybody else, not head and shoulders, not just yet. Okay, boy, here's a fun one. Why did I pick this? Georgia Tech giving 16 at Boston College. Look, this just seems like it should be a mismatch. BC is really struggling. Georgia Tech is a really good and a balanced offensive team, not super explosive, but really effective passing and throwing the ball. Not a great defensive team. Maybe that's the reason that I guess all three models have BC staying close enough to not make this a bettable game. It's just weird that all three models actually say, okay, if you have to pick a side, it's BC. Given that Georgia Tech's giving 16.5, we have margins here 15, 13, and 15. It's not often I'm going to just say, like, all the three models are wrong. But it feels to me like all the three models are wrong here, right? Is it just a matter of, God, Georgia Tech's defense is that bad? There's not a lot to like about BC here.
The thing is, at what point do you admit that it's just not worth betting on a team anymore? It's like I have tried to give BC like spots where it's, I think this could be a spot. Last week I thought, is this potentially a spot for BC? I don't know, maybe they can just show up and keep it close or something. This is just like another level of a bad football team. They just don't show any life. They don't show any reason to believe in them.
They got skunked by Stanford.
Yeah, you got blown out by Stanford. You got blown out by Clemson. You allowed Clemson to score 41 points.
Yeah.
At what point? I think there's at one point you just have to say, look, maybe the model suggests there's something here, but I can't play it. I can't do it. It's like betting on some of those like awful Chris Ash Rutgers teams where it's I don't care what the spot is.
Yes.
I can't do it. So I think that's where I am here. Like now, am I going to run to Vegas and give 17 points to Georgia Tech? No, I think I just won't bet this game. And I'll tell people to take your money and go put it on something that isn't this sick.
Really? You're not okay. Let me frame a different question for you then. One of my favorite ways to frame things, just to kind of.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. How many points would you need to bet on Boston College? Where it's
Yeah,
I can't pass it up.
I thought you were going to give me $100.
Okay. Robert gave you 76 US, 100 Canadian, and it's not to bet on this game. You can go spend it at Portillo's for a week or whatever you like. But
no, I think
it's burning. How many would you need to say I can't bet that up? That's too good on BC.
I think given Georgia Tech's defensive issues, it doesn't need to be an insane number. Like I'm not asking for the Purdue a 30-point dog against Ohio State kind of line, but I feel like I need at least 3 scores here. Like I want 21.
To me, that's a difference. I think it's like I would need at least 28.5 or 28
you
for
want
the push.
4 scores? Yeah. I guess the question is like, what is the Bill O'Brien margin here? Like, where do we feel comfortable in that? Like, you're almost betting to me with a team as dead as Boston College looks right now. You're basically betting to me at what point does Georgia Tech stop trying?
It's less than 3 scores.
Yeah, and I think that's my question because there is no program that is competing for the playoffs that's going to pull probably no program at all that's going to pull the dogs in a 2-score game. They're just not going to do it. If this is a 16-point game in the fourth quarter, they're still trying. They are still going to try and score.
It's just not working at the new quarterback. It's just as much as look. Georgia Tech's not great on defense here, but it's not like this is a horrible pass. This isn't Air Force, okay? These guys can do something here.
I just look back to this Boston College team. You remember when this team went to overtime with Michigan State, and Michigan State just barely squeaked it out? Boy, at the time, it was like, boy, this is a plucky Boston College team with a good offense. That feels like a great win for Michigan State. No, it just ended up being both of these teams are terrible.
Yep, the classic Robert.
They gave us a wonderfully not terrible game.
Yeah. Okay, you're on the different side because I thought this is too good to pass up, but you seem to be the voice of reason on this one, so I'll take your advice and spend the 76 US at Portillo's instead. That'll last me like 3 meals. That's how much I eat. All right, here's another one. All right, for those listening at home and not watching, Clemson is getting 3.5 at Louisville. Here's my first thing. I saw this line before I ran it through the model, and I just thought this is a severe overreaction to Louisville just finding a way for Cal to let Cal win that game. I think, fair to say, Cal's quarterback is considerably better than this guy's that's at Clemson now. The backup that's taking the snaps. I think Louisville, despite that, I'll put it this way, I don't expect Louisville to have another defensive showing like that, especially against an offense that's much more limited, weirdly to say, about Clemson than Cal. But I think it's true, and I think Louisville being at home again, I don't like Clemson on the road. This line just it felt like me as an overreaction to last week. But then my model Athena has this as a 4-point game in favor of Louisville. BuckMetrics model has it more like my brain at 11, and then Robert actually has Clemson winning straight up. I'm still tempted to take Louisville here. I don't think these teams are close.
I think the only argument you could get to sell me on Clemson would normally be if this game was at Clemson. But
that's what this line feels like.
But that doesn't, yeah, exactly. Like I could buy this if it was Louisville minus 3.5 at Clemson. I'd say, okay, is this a trap spot?
Yeah.
But also, we've seen teams that probably shouldn't just walk into Clemson and own games, walk into Clemson and own games. Because again, it just feels like the books are still pricing this like it's 2019 Clemson or 2018 Clemson. I don't, because I don't think Louisville is an unbeatable juggernaut ACC team. They are not some. I'm not afraid of them if they make the playoffs somehow. Like if they win the ACC, I'm not afraid of Louisville, but they're more than competent, and I think more importantly here, they are better coached.
Yeah.
At this point in these two coaches' tenures, Jeff Brom is a better coach than Dabo Swinney.
Yep.
Maybe not overall, but they are now. Louisville has also, according to my math, Louisville has already gotten their Jeff Brom no-show games out of the way this year.
Yes. Is that a specific page in your notes there? Okay, that was
every year, the best way to bet a Jeff Brom team is to wait for them to beat somebody good, and then the next week you bet against them. That's always how it works. And case in point, they beat Pittsburgh, and then they ended up losing to Virginia, which at the time was like, okay, that's a little weird, but now it's okay. It's not a bad loss. But again, we've already got, and then they lost to Cal. They're coming off a bye after a loss to Cal. That's bad. That would be a Jeff Brom special. But usually after a Jeff Brom special, they come back and they beat somebody. That's exactly what they did at Purdue. Every time we would lose to somebody stupid after a big win, they would come back and beat somebody. Usually it was Iowa. And is Clemson not just the Iowa of the ACC at this point?
Well, I don't know if I'd go that extreme. Iowa's better.
No, Iowa's better. Maybe in terms of just what I think Dabo thinks he can do with this team. That he
yes,
can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I'll bet this one. I think there are better games on the books. Now that under might be a little bit enticing because do we really think that Clemson? They've not really showed anything against good teams offensively. Like all of their best showings have been against Boston Colleges and Florida States. So I guess they looked decently well against Duke, even in the loss. But I don't know. Maybe there's an underplay on this one. I don't think I'm going to make any bets on this particular game, but I'd be a little surprised if Louisville doesn't win this.
Yeah, I haven't really completed the thesis on the stink line, but the working hypothesis is there's an element of the dog is actually this team's pretty good, and I don't think there's any element of that to Clemson here. It's like, hey, you guys are overlooking Clemson, so now they stink. I'm really tempted on this one, but
And what I want to know is, when are we going to stop falling for this in the preseason, right? Because I'm telling you, are we not fully ready to get back to next year? And the books are going to have Clemson as like the third best team in the ACC, and their win total is going to be like 8.5, 9.5. Like, I just feel like we have not figured out at this point that this is not it's done. This is over. Like, I don't think they're going to fire Dabo because I don't think they have the stones to do it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like a more extreme version of the Mike Gundy thing, right? Because Gundy hadn't actually won anything that significant with Oklahoma State, right? Like that's not that.
They hadn't won anything before him, though. That's the thing.
And I don't. Now you're dealing with something even more extreme. You coach with multiple national championships. And the coach who got them over the whole Clemson thing, like the whole thing was like, oh, every year that Clemson is going to figure out a way to screw this up. But now it just feels dead. Whether it's him getting let go or they actually just agree. I feel like his ego is too big for him to say I'm going to leave. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Just who else is in a similar situation on a smaller scale, but Liberty. Are you going to fire the guy that got you to that a New Year's Bowl game? It's really rough, man. I don't think we're talking about that game, but I think they're a dog this week to Missouri State. I know.
And it feels like the same thing's true with Liberty, and that people still want to be like, oh, hey, Liberty, they're that really good G5 team, but they're not.
That's not the case, and Joe Biden's not president. Fast forward a few years, guy, or it's a different era now. Interesting game. This is a recurring theme to me. Alabama giving 7 at home to Oklahoma. Maybe there's a little bit of a letdown after to a degree after hosting LSU, but I don't think that's the case. I look, my models have the same score, 26-17 in favor of Bama. Robert's got it right on the number 7 here. I just think that, like I was talking about Oklahoma, and I want to see them against LSU. Alabama's defense is not as good as LSU's, but it's not far off from a metric standpoint. Now, maybe Oklahoma stays in it based on the strength, like we talked about earlier in this episode. Number 1 defense by my power ratings here, by Athena. I can't see him stay by the end of 4 quarters. I just can't see this being a 1-score game. I think Oklahoma's offense is just struggling too much, and just keeping this close on the road. If we say that this is a 4-point home field advantage, do we really think this is a field goal game on a neutral field?
No. I get that Alabama, we mentioned it last week, that they feel like a little bit less of an obvious form of Georgia in that they have played with fire a little bit this season, and it feels like at some point they probably get burned, but you need a team that's built to actually burn them, right? You need a team that is you need to be more of an offensive threat than Oklahoma, right? Because I don't really see this Alabama team, especially at home, losing a game where like the Oklahoma defense is the star of the show. Are they really going to force 3 turnovers or something in this game to make up for just how much their offense is going to lack here? I just don't really see that as a viable path. This is a game where I'd be a lot more interested again on it if it was at the other place. Like if this was at Oklahoma, then I could see this being a little bit different where it's, is this the sleepy road game? Or not sleepy road game, but the tough road environment for Alabama. And it was the same thing with the LSU thing, too. It was like, if that game had been at LSU, I would have had so many ways to say maybe this is like the trap game where LSU comes out and feeds off the crowd and says, hey, we're not dead yet. But I don't think that happens in Tuscaloosa. Could this be a little bit closer than people anticipate in the end of it? Maybe, but I don't know. I just feel like I don't see what the path in this one is for Oklahoma.
No, we kind of had a preview of this, although last week with LSU playing Alabama in the same venue. Oklahoma's offense is better, but it's not like they're good by SEC standards. Yeah, okay. We agree on that. This is interesting to me. Utah State at UNLV given 4.5 at home. The thing that stands out to me, and people just don't appreciate, this UNLV defense stinks, man. It's not good.
Stunk all season, too. This is not a surprise.
No, did you see the Idaho State game?
Yes. Yeah.
That's where we found our friend in Vietnam, right?
I've been hate watching this team all season because of the most insane fan on Twitter the entire season long. I'm sorry. 31 points to an FCS team, which they should have lost. 21 points to Phil Longo.
It's just basic defense. It's not.
8 points to Air Force.
Yeah. They were lucky to win that. It's just, look, they have a good offense. Cole Andrea's having a really good season.
Very good.
Here's something I did not expect to say. Guess who's having a better season than him? It's Bryson Barnes of Utah State. I don't know how Bronco does it, man. Bryson Barnes was like a bad punchline at Utah. He was bad, really bad.
Yep.
And the offense is more than functional. Is it fair to say that did Utah State did they win the, how do I say this? I want to say, did they win like the estate sale of New Mexico by getting Bronco instead of Devin Dampier?
Boy, that's an interesting thought question. I think Dampier works for what Utah is trying to do, but I can't say that this is a resilient Utah State team, right?
Yeah. They
are well coached. Bryson Barnes does look really good in this system. And you know what? The angry UNLV girl can come into my mentions all she wants. I am not afraid to say this UNLV team has fraud written all over it.
I think they're good on offense. They're good on offense.
I do think they're good on offense, but you have to evaluate a team from all aspects of it. And I keep in mind, for the longest, this team went into October without playing a team with a single conference win.
Yeah.
And
single FBS win.
Yeah, and a lot of those games were like, you had to do what to beat Idaho State? You had to do what to beat Miami, they really should have lost to Miami. That was an
Yeah.
epic collapse. They made a nice defensive stand for all the issues that this defense has had. They made a good defensive stand against UCLA to save that game. But then, boy, I remember as soon as they got to the Boise State game, like I was looking for the right moment to fade this team. And man, that Boise State game, it was like, oh, this is it. This is where the Calliope crashes to the ground. And then they don't rebound after that game. They give up 40 points and lose to a resilient New Mexico team. What is the common denominator in these two losses? You played two well coached and tough football teams, and you got out physical. You got out tough. They were more than willing to outshoot you, and they did.
Yeah.
And boy, if you want to tell me like a Bronco Mendenhall team going to be the team to out physical you and be more than one. Oh, you're going to score. You think you're going to score 30 on us? That's fine. We'll just score 40. It's fine. Oh, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to bet this game because it is a really interesting line, and part of me wants to put my money where my mouth is because I just don't believe in this UNLV team overall. But this feels like this is, you know what this is? It's not giving me Boise State vibes. The Boise State game I went to into it thinking UNLV was going to get blown out, and they did. This is giving me New Mexico vibes where I think they could lose this game. You should be really careful because you are playing a really good coach team.
Yeah, I think before the season, and I stumbled into this, Mullins clearly got a coaching advantage over most of this conference. And
Yeah.
I'm going to land the same point that you did. Who is that not true of? Eck at New Mexico. And you got the same thing right here.
Yeah.
I think you've got a guy here that can really take advantage of that bad defense. I hate to just keep on saying it, but God, that defense, I mean, they just, I like to say of Air Force, they tackle, but it's just 12 yards downfield. They're just not good.
They barely tackle to begin with. Like that Idaho State game, they could not wrap up FCS guys.
They couldn't line up either.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this is what's interesting too, just for a little bit of context to be fair and to show why the opinion I think is still valid. He actually hired Zach Arnett, who was the defensive coordinator at Mississippi State under Leach, and he was really good. And I think that was a great hire. And then Arnett had to leave for personal reasons, so now he was stuck with this NFL guy who just has no business. I think, in fairness to Mullen, he got stuck, but I think that really more colors the point of, this is legitimately a horrible defense.
Let me be fair, too, because I don't want to just sit here and crap on UNLV just because I hate a Twitter account. Let me be fair here. I think if you look at these two teams and they both go into this game and they play their best game, I think UNLV wins the game. I do think that there is enough on this offense. There's enough with this quarterback who is really good. Like no hater can deny that this offense is nice. And it looks great. It's fun to watch. So I think if both of these teams come in and they play their best game, I get why UNLV is favored here. They win the game. But where does the margin between UNLV's A game, Utah? What if this is UNLV's B game and Utah State's A game? Or does it need to be Utah State's A game versus a B minus? Like, where is the gap to now where it's, okay, I no longer am confident in UNLV to be able to overcome their systematic issues that have shown up in their bigger games? I think that's where I land on this game.
Yeah, fair. I can see anytime that UNLV scores, I can just see Utah State counterpunching. Like I couldn't give more than 2.5 on UNLV. Now, if it's 2.5 versus 4.5, that's not an bettable margin to me. But now, this is a fun game. I wonder. I should have looked this up. Let me see if it's even on TV. Oh, it's on CBS Sports. Good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Big Mountain West game. I wouldn't be surprised with CBS Sports.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be a good one to watch. As will be this one, Texas at Georgia.
Yes.
This is just the theme. Like, BuckMetrics is getting sucked into these lines about, again, I don't think Texas is... Okay. Overall, I don't see Texas as being close to Georgia. Now, my model has this a 3-point game. Athena has it a 12-point game, and Robert has it a 4-point game. I think Texas is too one-sided. Now, if somebody wants to believe in the Arch revival, good for you. I've made the point several times that Mississippi State has a good defense, And so we have to give him credit for what he did at Mississippi State, although I think that we'll just see. We'll just have to, I just need to be a little bit convinced. I think as much as I'd like to make a case for Mississippi State, I think it's easier to make a case for Georgia's defense being a little better here. I just like the Kirby defense against the Sark offense as well, just in terms of that kind of matchup as well. Now, the narratives point to something totally different in terms of like the things that we yuck up about. Texas is the ultimate blow it team, and just either blow it late or just like last gasp like Vandy when you're winning by 24 and you wind up winning by 3 at the end. And Georgia's the ultimate barely getting away with it team. Not that the narrative matters, but I just have to comment that this, if the podcast narratives mean anything, Texas jumps out to a 3-score lead and then Georgia wins by 3 with 2 minutes left. But I just don't think Texas is nearly as good as Georgia. And I've been a bit of a Georgia skeptic, but there's more to be skeptical about with Texas.
That's not even a. It's not even a podcast narrative. That has been, with the exception of the Mississippi State game, and even then it started that way. Mississippi State scored on them right away. They just didn't score again. But that has been Georgia's MO. They just don't show up in the first half. They get down by a score or so, and then they come back in the second half and they win the game, and it's not convincing, and it's not. They don't cover spreads or whatever. But that's just what they do. But again, it's like they keep finding ways to win those games. And so then I go back to, okay, what I need a team that can get a lead on them that they're not going to blow. So the first question that you have, yeah. So the first question that you have is, can Texas get that lead? I don't think they can. I don't trust them to. I guess they could, but I don't trust them to, especially on the road, because I don't believe in the arch revival. I think he's playing better, but you're not going to beat Georgia and Athens on playing better. You have to play good.
Yes.
You have to play your best.
Let me frame that this way real quick. He's playing better, and I think that there are about like 100 quarterbacks that are playing better than he played at UTEP.
Right.
They're not all going to win in Georgia.
Yeah. So yeah, could Texas score early in this game and get a lead? Sure. But I think the formula to beating Texas and or keeping it close is you have to be ahead by a little bit at halftime. Like you even saw, like with Florida, they were tied at halftime. Game was over. If you're tied with Georgia at halftime, you lost the game. And I just don't really trust this Texas team to be able to maintain a lead, even if they can get it on the road in a place like Athens. I also think this is a really good fade spot of Texas because they're before the bye, like taking them to beat Vanderbilt was a pretty, at least to me, like it looked like it made sense. Like this was the spot where both the Vanderbilt hype train gets slowed a little bit, but then Texas gets everybody back on. Oh, look at that! Texas has figured it out. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Diego Pavia, which, by the way, that game should not have ended up as close as it did. Like, Texas was mainly dominating that game, and if you're letting teams back in again, so that's what you can't do here. So it does feel like this is the natural fade spot for Texas. They got that big win. And now Georgia can be like, oh, hey, by the way, Kirby Smart is still a better coach than Sark in this spot. I don't know if I like the spread again because it just feels so – it is nice that it's under 7. I do like that. But, again, what Georgia team are we going to get? Are we going to get second half Georgia where I can bet the second half spread and make some money? Maybe that's your play. Or you get it live a little bit, especially if Texas scores early. Maybe you play it live. The under is a little enticing to me. I think you could see, especially if you get a game where Arch Manning kind of reverts back to struggling a little bit, that could be enticing. Georgia has played a lot of games where it's, and Texas has too, where it's, this isn't in doubt, but it's not fun to watch. Maybe there's a play to be had on the under there.
How many points would you need, again, just as a good gauge, because I'm so far from the market here?
It's just really...
I'll lead with this. I would need at least 14 to be enticed to take Texas.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way too, because when you're asking me this question too, again, you're not asking what spread do I think they could cover. You're asking me what spread I'd be willing to bet.
Yeah.
And yes, to bet here, I want 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I want enough wiggle room for Texas to get a lead early and then give that lead up. But it's in this again. If we follow the Georgia MO, it's the second half. You given the lead up, but you still need Georgia to score 2 more touchdowns maybe to cover that spread. I got some room to work with, absent an epic collapse at 6.5. Even if you go into the halftime leading by 3, let's say, it takes a touchdown and a field goal, and you're not covering. So, I think that's about where I want it to, is I need that margin. I need that 2 touchdowns to be able to say, you know what, I think that even Sark can't screw this up here.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I've been really disciplined lately, so I probably won't wake up having on Saturday morning seeing that somebody bet on Georgia in my account, but this would be the prime candidate for that spot. All right, last one. Boise at San Diego State. This is really interesting for a couple of things. Let's just first I don't know where to start on this. There's a lot of data points here. Let's just start with Boise. Oops, and then my laser pointer went away. Let me grab it again here real quick. Nope, that ain't it. Come on. There we go. Out of the gate. Surprisingly, San Diego State has a better passing offense than Boise. This is a year-long stat. So this includes Maddox Madsen, I think he's out for the year after that injury too. That's a big problem. Boise, who was that against? Was that against New Mexico? It was Fresno. Where Madsen got injured and they lost by 3 or something.
It looks like he's out this Saturday. He's not out for the season.
Wow. Okay.
He's expected to return.
Okay. Good luck with that. I'm just telling you, you've got a really good defense here that you're facing this week. So you've got a deficiency at the quarterback spot. You're better at running the ball. Fine. People just don't get Boise State's not special this year. They have the most talent, but it's not working. And part of it is they don't have the coach that's actually used to be the coach, who was pretending to be an offensive coordinator named Dirk Cutter. And now they really have the coach who's learning on the job to be charitable. This is not a good offense. This defense is about as good as San Diego State's by the numbers here. If I just I just believe more in San Diego State's defense. Just my descriptives, not predictives, basically have San Diego State as much better. What's going to get the headline, I think there's probably a little bit of that bigness number, is San Diego State lost by a big number to Hawaii last week. Number one, it was home Hawaii, which is a big difference. Yep. Number two, Hawaii scored no offensive points after halftime. There was a special teams touchdown. There was a pick six. Somehow Oregon State was not involved, although it sounds a lot like that game as well. But they figured it out. They had a really bad first half. And you know what? I can forgive that, where you've got a really good quarterback in Hawaii. I don't have a really good quarterback here at Boise State. Coaching hierarchy, I think Lewis is on a totally different level than Danielson. Notwithstanding Danielson has a conference title, I would love to see how would Spencer Danielson do. Let me hand it to you for this. How would Spencer Danielson do? Would he win 6 games at Kent State?
Is that a little bit unfair, though? How many people are going to win 6 games at Kent State?
Sean Lewis did. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah. And you know what? He should get a statue for that.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Is Boise State the G5 Clemson here? Where we're desperately holding on to what they were last year. But the coach isn't here. Ashton Genty isn't here. This isn't the same program. It just isn't. And that's fine. That's not to say that this is a bad team.
No, that's a really good call. They have a lot of talent like Clemson does too, but it just doesn't coalesce.
Right. It feels like it's the exact same thing here. This is not a bad team. There's a lot of talent. They can win football games, and they have won football games, but all of their best showings have come against pretty flawed opponents, with the exception, I think, of the win against New Mexico, which I think that one, given what New Mexico has done this year, I think a blowout win over New Mexico is pretty impressive. But, all their really good offensive showings. Good showing against Air Force, bad defense. Good showing against App State, bad team. Good showing against UNLV, horrible defense, right? These are all really bad defenses.
That's a good point, yeah.
What have you done against the good teams on your schedule? 7 points against South Florida, 7 points against Notre Dame. And I guess you just decided to lose by 23 to Fresno State.
That's where he got injured.
He
In
got
fairness to
injured,
him.
but it is okay. But if you're going to say the quarterback got injured against Fresno State and they lost by
Yes.
23, and now you're playing San Diego State,
The,
right?
yeah, if you say that sentence, it's, oh, you're talking about Nevada, right? Yeah, the quarterback got injured. He lost by 23 to Fresno State. Oh, yeah,
Right,
that's what happened in Nevada, right? No, it's
I feel
Boise.
bad for them. I feel bad. You don't ever want somebody to get injured, but and you don't want to use it as an excuse. But if that is what you're, if that is what the injury does to your team, and now you're playing the San Diego State team, which is already a good football team to begin with, but this is a team that really prides itself on physicality, like they always have. It's just part of the program identity, and you're going to have to score against them. I'm taking a lot more money that you are going to look like you did against South Florida and Notre Dame than you are against UNLV here.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting 2.5 here, under the 3, no hook. I love San Diego State here.
Yeah. This is the one where this seems like the sucker line where it's, oh, Boise's they're giving less than a field goal at San Diego
No,
State.
I think that is exactly what it's the one where if you aren't familiar with both the Mountain West landscape this year, but also I think there are a lot of people who will look at this game and they won't even look into the fact that the Boise State quarterback is injured. They're just going to see Boise State and they're going to assume that it's Boise State of old. Like, how many people that don't follow the Mountain West know that Boise State's not in the title hunt?
Yeah. No, and to that point, I think even people who know, I'll put it this way. Hopefully he's not listening now because he'll.
Or I guess they're 4-1, but
I have a hard time seeing a path for them, especially after I don't think this one goes well. I love Hambone. I think if I asked him, what do you think of the Boise coach? I don't think he'd have a strong opinion like me about, this guy is not it. And I'm not saying I'm right, but I think there's a real strong case if you look really in the details about this guy. He doesn't have it yet, I'll say. And I think that that's not really known to the market yet. And it's even people that like to bet more than just on a dumb basis, but on an informed basis. I think they don't really get. There's a lot of holes here and there in Boise. So yeah, all right. You talked me into it. Not that I needed talking into, but I appreciate the confirmation.
Yeah, I'm glad we covered this one because I went ahead and grabbed.
There you go.
It is still at the 2.5, so I like that.
He grabbed his phone. I love it. Okay. Real-time drama. All right. Little bit of a update on the upset predictions. No games last week, but Robert, before the season, did pick ULM over South Alabama. This is important for my small play on the Warhawks. Need that. I want to buy a Warhawks t-shirt, but I can't do it unless I bet on them. Or in the case of Kennesaw, against them, and they cash for me. But that's all love for Kennesaw now. Isaiah, we made it. Thank you so much for joining us, sitting in for Robert. We will see you next week. Again, no island time this week, but Isaiah, I'm sure I'll be in touch with you before too long, and we will see you in 7 days from now.
Yes, sir. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Good luck, everybody. Again, no island time, so good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Bye-bye.